feel like an equal in a society that is systematically working against you to put you at a disadvantage.
Racism exists in every individual and environment, whether we realize it or not.
Don't think racism still exists in modern society? Consider these statistics. Minority suspects in crime have a 30% higher chance of being arrested in comparison to white suspects.
Context.org states that in predominantly white neighborhoods in St. Louis, traffic stops are more likely to include a search in stops of black drivers than of white drivers, especially by white police.
Black residents are less likely than others to have substance abuse treatment facilities that accept public insurance.
Black patients are more likely than whites to have surgery in low-quality hospitals.
Is defined as a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various ways, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. Structural racism is dependent on institutional racism. The two go hand in hand. In fact, structural racism cannot exist without institutional racism, which is defined as a form of racism expressed in the practice of social and political institutions.
Structural racism comes in play when these institutions begin to interact with one another.
Institutions form a network in which they oppress minority groups and put them at an unfair disadvantage. These institutions follow the same system and do not try to change it because it works in the majority's favor. Structural racism is also a form of systemic racism.
There are many problems that arise when a system like this is at work. For example, black students are often given harsher punishment than their white counterparts. This leads them to be suspended and lose valuable education time.
These students are more likely to be incarcerated because of the constant punishment and reprimand. Is that a word?
I don't know. She won't notice.
Okay. These students are more likely to be incarcerated because of the constant punishment and reprimandment of the school system. This is known as the school-to-prison pipeline. These black students are unfairly treated in school, and this often starts them off on the wrong foot in their life. These students are more likely to be incarcerated because of the constant punishment and reprimandment of the school system. This is known as the school-to-prison pipeline. These black students are unfairly treated in the school, and this is often starting them off on the wrong foot in their life. Black convicts also receive a longer sentence for the same crime committed by a white convict.
The longer a person's put in jail, the harder it is for them to adapt back into society once they're released. Many opportunities become unavailable because of the system's discrimination against the black minorities.
Have you noticed how many people of the same culture, background, and race often live together in the same community? This is an example of structural racism at play.
Often, minorities are grouped together and separated from white people. The minorities are often sold low-income homes in the ghetto. This system is working to keep minorities in poverty.
These neighborhoods in which zip codes are mostly black often have inadequate access to healthcare physicians, rather than their white counterparts. Property with white inhabitants are valued at a higher price than those with minorities living in them.
The segregation of minorities put them at a disadvantage because they don't have many opportunities. So you may wonder how we solve these issues. Here are some ways we can reduce racism in our society.
One solution is banning the box allows for future employees to make it past the application process without having to disclose previous felonies or misdemeanors, which reduces discrimination based on prior offense history. I feel as though this is useful since prior offenses may have stemmed from structural racism, would not cause discrimination in the workplace, thus creating more opportunities for potential employees who may be part of a minority group.
More students of color have to borrow money to attend college than whites and are less likely to finish. Tackling.
Yeah.
Tackling student. What?
Wait, you should.
Yeah, start over. More students of color have to borrow money to attend college than whites and are less likely to finish. Tackling student loan debt is a huge solution. Kill me. More students of color have to borrow money to attend college than whites and are less likely to finish. Tackling student loan debt is a huge solution. Black wealth doesn't protect black students from debt the same way it helps white students. A possible solution is to offer more programs to minority students, which would help with scholarships or even just paying off a portion of the debt.
One solution that we are seeing in everyday life is having an African American history class. This is effective because it teaches us about different forms of racism that we may not have recognized before.
This allows us to identify biases within ourselves and then work to change them.
Class also allows for us to more openly speak about topics that we may not be comfortable speaking about anywhere else. In addition to that, this class is an opportunity to hear other perspectives and actively discuss them.
There are many other solutions waiting to be created.
It all starts with you.